Let's keep the conversation going with our first guest for the hour. We've got Matt Perrault. He's director of the Center on Technology Policy at UNC. He's also former director of public policy at Facebook. And Matt, I thought of you as sort of the perfect person to weigh in on this as somebody who has had to deal with it, granted at a different social media platform. You heard Dan address the speculation there. Can Twitter continue to operate in its current scale, in its current form, given the mass exodus it has seen? What do you think?
Well, so I did work at a tech company previously, but I never experienced 30 to 50% layoffs of the employee base. Obviously, that's incredibly significant. It's a painful experience for the company. And of course, a deeply painful experience for the employees. I don't know enough about exactly how Twitter's content moderation processes function to know whether or not those will be deeply affected. I assume that they will, and that's going to play out in the months and potentially years ahead to see what it looks like for content moderation and the state of harmful content and misinformation, disinformation, and security issues on that platform.
Matt, worth highlighting the numbers again. I mean, Twitter, since Elon Musk has taken over, has dismissed about half of its staff. Since then, we've gotten these reports of contractors that have been dismissed as well. You got this ultimatum. Turns out a lot of employees were willing to take that for 3-month severance. I realize that content moderation isn't just a numbers game. But given what you know, the involvement that's necessary to make sure that the content is safe, make sure that there's data privacy on a platform, what does this kind of upheaval mean for a company?
Well, even before the layoffs, Twitter was already significantly smaller than many of the other companies that are mentioned in the same breath. Facebook, before its recent layoffs, was over 80,000 employees. Google is about 140,000. Apple is 165,000. So Twitter, before its layoffs, was around 7,500. That's already significantly smaller. And then a 30 to 50% reduction obviously makes the company very small relative to its peers. I don't think we know exactly what that will mean for content moderation. There are processes in place that enable a small number of people to moderate content at scale, such as sophisticated use of artificial intelligence. I don't know the extent of those technologies at Twitter. But obviously, I think it's likely that it will have a significant effect on their ability to moderate the content as aggressively as they might have in the past. And the question is how that will affect the user experience for most people who use Twitter.
One of the things you highlighted, though, even though this has led to a lot of questions around what is still a very popular platform, you said, look, many of these tech companies did scale up significantly over the last several years. A little slimming is not necessarily a bad thing. What about to this extent, though? I mean, how do you think about this in the context of that?
Yeah, so again, we don't know exactly what this size of cuts at a company that started at this already small size will have on a platform of Twitter's user scale. And again, I think that there is likely a risk of harm, that users will be harmed and the experience on the platform will be less good. But I do think you raise a really important point. I think there is bloat in the tech sector right now. I think that's part of the reason that we've seen the layoffs that we've had. And I think there is a push, particularly on the competition side, the people who are raising arguments about competition and wanting companies to be as innovative as possible, that we should welcome aggressive innovation. And that will likely result in some displacement of employees or result in the release of some products that are not successful, as Musk has already done. I don't know if Twitter will succeed or fail going forward, but I do think a spur to innovate more aggressively, to consider bringing in new talent, to revamp processes could be helpful for product innovation there.
Finally, Matt, Elon Musk, obviously a very polarizing figure, as we've learned over the last few weeks. Putting all the cuts aside, you've certainly got users who've said, well, now that he's owning the platform, I'm going to go to another one, Mastodon one, that has seen a lot of benefits on the back of that. And I wonder if as we see this all play out, it's leading to more fragmentation in the social media space. I mean, thinking back to when you were at Facebook, that was kind of the beginning of it, but it didn't feel quite as polarizing as it does today. Do you think there's a fundamental shift in how these platforms are being used and what's being elevated as a result?
It really feels to me like it's an opportunity for ripe competition. Several of the platforms are facing significant challenges. And I think that that's a moment for their leaders to innovate in new ways with products, to see whether that results in losing users, to see what users gravitate toward, whether a product like Mastodon will actually be competitive and whether people will find that it replicates or improves upon the experience that they have on Twitter. I think that that kind of innovation is a welcome thing, but there is pain associated with it. I don't think innovation it necessarily always produces good results. I think that there will be pain in this process, but I do think it's valuable that companies are considering new and aggressive ways to think through a whole bunch of different issues, content moderation, the kinds of business models that they have in place. That strikes me as a positive thing.
Well, Matt, it's always good to get your insight. Matt Perrault, director of the Center on Technology Policy at UNC and former public policy director at Facebook.